Welcome, Worm Wizards. And today we're going to be talking about our mission at Harley's Worms and what we're doing for the world as far as raising worms and selling the worms. And we always try to be the best at whatever we're doing, whether it's raising worms, growing vegetables, or shipping the worms to you. And we want to make sure everything is perfect. So speaking of quality, we want to offer the best quality products at an affordable price. And to have the best quality, you have to have the best products. And we have worked hard for the past 3 to 4 months since we started our business on getting everything set up so we have the highest quality worms and the highest quality product that you can get, in our opinion. And that goes all the way down to what kind of bedding they're in, the water they get, and probably most important, the food they get, as well as extra stuff. And that's what makes a good vermicompost and also a quality worm. Also, at Harley's Worms, we believe in quality over quantity. And, you could have 10 mediocre things, or you could have 2 or 3 really good things. And we like to follow that in anything we do. So, that being said, we chose worms because they can have a product ready for your garden in anywhere between 2 and 6 months. Whereas if you were just to start a compost pile in your backyard, you're looking at, anywhere from 2 months, not 2 months, 6 to 8 months to 2 years, depending on how you were composting. So that's why we really like worm castings. And not only that, I do believe that worm castings are better when you put all your resources in one basket, whereas a compost pile, your resources are more spread out and you're relying on, your soil underneath the compost pile for the worms to work into it, whereas going directly to the source, which is the worms. So we do a small batch method, which is handcrafted by me and my wife. And right now it's 100 pounds, soon to be 200 pounds of worms. And we check on them almost every day and make sure they're fed and watered and in good conditions. And the quality is not gonna lose or go down because me and her are going to stay on top of it, whether it's shipping, customer service, raising the worms, these YouTube videos, and, most importantly, making sure you guys are happy. And with great customer service comes with great conversations on the phone. And everybody's called a business or tried to, and you can't even find their phone number to talk to somebody, much less actually the people who's doing the work. So at Harley's Worms, we would like to always have somebody that knows what's going on with every part of the business. And, that number is on our website, and you can call me whenever, and I will walk you through any problems or questions you have. So we also like to bring you the best quality videos we can come up with and the best information we can give you about the worms. And where that comes from is, 30 years of real world experience. And I am 30 years old, and 3 to 4 of those were directly raising worms in my backyard. So I do feel like I have a lot of good information to share with you guys and to help the worm community as a whole become better. And that way your vegetables can grow better and you can be a healthier person from that. And this was a harvest off of one bin that we have, and it was a lot of dirt, a lot of good castings. So we start out with the best quality inputs to then have the best quality outputs with our business. And, that's directly what we put into these worm bins. It is going to be turned into the castings. And we aren't selling our castings yet, but eventually we'll have enough to supply you guys. But I do feel like as a worm business, we need a good garden to show you guys the power of worm castings. Our worms look the way they do and are nice and fat and healthy because we want to be nice, fat, and healthy. Well, maybe not fat, but you get where I'm going with this. So we started gardening, and our first year went really good. And they say your first year is kind of like a way of having you a good yield. That way you come back next year. And sure enough, our second year wasn't as good as our first year. And, we tried everything, and then we had to move. So, we left all that good compost and stuff there for the next man. And so we had to start fresh. And when you start from nothing, just regular old dirt out in the yard, it takes a lot of good stuff to get it to where it'll grow enough vegetables to really make a difference for you. And from there, we found out that off of my research that worm castings were some of the best dirt that you could have to put in your garden. And we needed a lot of dirt because we love vegetables and especially peppers and tomatoes. So we needed a lot of good quality castings to put in there, and so we thought it would be more sustainable and eco-friendly to just raise the worms ourselves instead of going and buying a different option. And it's worked out really good, and this is 3 or 4 years experience at it, and my gardens never looked this good, and everything that I put in this dirt grows extremely well. And all that to say, there's a lot of modern farming going on that couldn't be further away from vermiculture and vermicomposting, and in my opinion, they couldn't be further away from the right way to do it. So at Harley's Worms, we, like I said, we do garden a lot, and we believe the best way to garden is to do it in a permaculture way. And what permaculture is a design philosophy and practice that aims to create agriculture and land management systems that are sustainable and work in harmony with nature. So speaking of being in harmony with nature, I do believe that, we raise worms like this, and the worms don't like to be in their castings for too long. So once it looks like good castings, you would want to harvest those worms out of there and get them into some fresh material. And that benefits us as we get the byproduct, which is their castings. And then we also give them the byproduct of a fresh new home. So everybody wins. And as you can see, the baby worms are winning right here on the little layer. And the pumpkin sprouts are winning as much as they can with black poly sheeting on top of them, which is blocking out the light. But for having no light, that is some pretty good pumpkin sprouts. And we have came a long way in the 3 months that we put the pumpkin in there. It is now fully decomposed, and even the seeds are sprouting, which then get turned into pumpkin microgreens for the worms, and they're going to love them. So speaking on being in harmony with nature, the worms take what is a trash or a unnecessary waste item for most homes, which is the food scraps. They take that and they just throw it in the trash, which then smells bad also, it has to get that extra weight, burns more fuel to then go to the landfill. And by vermicomposting, you're taking that trash, what some people would call trash, we call it treasure, free food, put that in the worm bin, and now we have more dirt for the garden and a resource. So it, in my opinion, is the best example of permaculture and perfect harmony in the ecosystem. So along with our missions at Harley's Worms, another mission we have is to spread the word on vermicomposting and the benefits, the many benefits that it has for not just you, but for also the garden and even your neighbors. You might have extra food you could give them from growing your own food. So I do think it's very important that we do share some of this wisdom and knowledge that could, in my opinion, help the world be a better place. Because, you know, if you drive down the road, there's not a lot of people that even have a garden. And, you know, in my opinion, the people that garden are really good people and they mean well. But, you know, out of those people that garden, how many people are actually raising their own worms for their garden? So I do think it's very important that we don't just hold all this in for ourselves, and we do share with the community at whole. So I do have a Bible verse for you guys, and it's Matthew 25:29, and it says, "To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away." So with that being said, I think it would be good to lead into the tip of the day. And my tip of the day is going to be if you don't have worms yet, or you're not raising worms, you're still thinking about it or on the edge, if you want castings by, it's the end of February now, so March, April, May. So if you ordered worms, then you wouldn't have castings from those worms until somewhere in May to June, which still is enough time to grow a crop this year with it. And even if, you know, you're seeing this video a month from now, it's never too late to raise worms. So if you are one of those people that still haven't raised worms yet, I would just like to say that, you know, you can raise them and they're not that difficult. They're very sturdy creatures, like I've said. And, you know, I never thought that I would have the courage to go on here and try to inspire somebody else. But, you know, I'm here to tell you that you can be the difference in the world, and you can inspire others to be better and to, you know, instead of causing harm for the planet, to cause good for the planet and to help other people. Also, I want to show the world in the springtime that worms can be used in a regenerative way where, you know, we produce the dirt, and then the dirt then produces the vegetables, and then those vegetables go back to feed the worms. And that way, the dirt and the whole ecosystem and the worms are in a better place than when they started. And I don't think you can ask for much more than that out of someone gardening or raising worms. Another excellent way to utilize your worms in a regenerative and a very eco-friendly way would be to create your own worm tea, or get it from a supplier would be your next best bet, but it's always going to be better done yourself. And also the worm tea, and this is another reason why I love worms, is, you know, when you start getting closer to nature, you get further away from what's wrong and back to what's right. And when you take your worm castings after you harvest, you then make worm tea with it. And that worm tea, which is basically a plant elixir, and it's really good for the plants, like for real. And when you spray it on the foliage of the leaves, it acts as kind of like a waxy protectant for the plant initially, and it also steers away the bad pests and stuff like that for your garden. And it also acts as a way so the plant can grow better. And so, there's really no need for any kind of insecticide or pesticide, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, those pests are attacking that plant for a reason. And, might as well let the plant go instead of trying to fight it. We want to work with nature, not against it. And so I have touched on this a little bit in a previous video, but, I also started out, before I raised worms, I was a huge fisherman. Like, I got 2 kayaks and a boat. Like, just absolutely love being on the water. There's really nothing like it. Very peaceful, relaxing. Absolutely love it. And if you've never tried kayaking, another tip of the day is going to be get you a canoe. Canoes are absolute luxury over a kayak. And it's really fun with 2 people. And kayaks are kind of like a 1-person boat. Canoes are 2 people, and you don't need to be going out on a kayak by yourself anyway. So, again, we started out fishing, and, I started out trying to figure out what works, and I didn't really have anybody showing me how to fish for real. So, kind of had to figure it out on my own, and my wife, she didn't really know nothing about fishing other than, you could use a worm to fish with, or you can use a plastic lure. And the reality is, you use a plastic lure, you didn't hurt a worm in the process, but, anybody that's ever fished, they've threw that lure and hung it in a tree, and then that lure sunk to the bottom of the river, maybe even got in your foot. I hope not, but what I'm saying is, that fishing line is only as good as that knot you tied, and, you lose that lure, and they even make like life-size fish lures now, and again, you're working against nature, and that plastic lure be down there for who knows how long, and now you're messing up the ecosystem. People see the fish see a fish, and they're like, oh, let me go get it. It's a fake fish. So all that problems and all that stuff could be avoided if you just had some worms to then put on the hook. And yeah, it's rough, but, at the end of the day, you're giving that fish nutrients and vitamins that it needs. And, the plastic lure is just going to taste like plastic to the fish, and it's not helping anybody. And, you can throw the fish back after you've caught it, but, he still ripped his lip. And in my opinion, you should fish with live bait to have less of an impact on the environment. And that's kind of why I think worms are the future. Another reason to move people away. So here we have our breeder bin and loads and loads amounts of baby worms, and they're loving the blueberries I gave them. They ain't quite got to them yet, but they're having fun with it. And we do feed our bins food scraps versus some of the other alternatives out there. And I do think that makes a world of difference for the worms. And as you can see, it is just absolutely loaded with cocoons and baby worms. And, our first video was when we got these bins set up. So you can kind of see the timeline on where we're at in the process. And we're going to hit them with another dusting of our worm chow that we sell on our website, and then a little bit of molasses to boost the worm bin's activity and to help them reproduce and to eat the food faster. And another cocoon. And it's literally like I could pick up a handful of dirt in this worm bin, and it's just, in one handful, I counted 70 worm cocoons. So I know there was a lot of comments about the pests in my worm bin. A lot of people said they were pot worms or whatever, but I'm here to tell you it's just an extreme amount of baby worm population explosion. So I hope you've really liked what you've seen and heard today. I really enjoy doing these videos, and I really enjoy checking out the worms every day, and it's had a nice positive impact in my life, and I just want to share that with you guys, that I do think it could positively impact everyone's life. And there's just something to throwing a pumpkin in a worm bin, and then 2 or 3 months later it's all gone, and that pumpkin is now mixed into that dirt and help to raise the baby worms. But anyway, thanks for you guys for watching. Absolute legends for staying till the end. And thank you for supporting Harley's Worms.